We're reading a message from the book Green Light by the Spirit Andre Luis. Message 34. Suggestions while on the pathway. Why lament? Instead, always learn. Each person will reap from life not only what has been done, but also how it has been done. Do not deceive yourself with false appreciations of justice, for time is the judge of everyone. Remember, we receive everything from God, who changes it or takes things away from us according to our needs. Humility is a numb angel. The less you need, the more you will receive. Tomorrow is going to be a beautiful day, but in order to work, serve, renew, and learn today is the right time. Do not delude yourself with this presumed happiness of those who abandon their own tasks, inasmuch as they temporarily try to escape from themselves, such as getting drunk to forget their problems. Time is as precious as gold, but a fulfilled task is light in one's life. There is only one evil to fear, that one which is still inside us. Do not stop edifying goodness, nor rest on your laurels, nor count the difficulties of the pathway of life. Do your tasks seem frail? Go ahead and keep working, for often it is necessary to suffer so that God can grant us renewal.
Dear God, we are happy to be here one more time, together with friends, for the study of the Spirit's book. Please help us to have an open mind and heart, to listen what the Spirit has to say, and to study and learn with them. Please give us the courage to change what we already can, and to reflect on what we can change in the future. So be it.
Hello everyone, all of us in carnes and all of those in spirit who are here with us, also those who may be following us. May we all, under the name of God and Jesus, be open in our hearts and minds as learners, as students, as we are, to carry on our studies. We are studying the Spirit's book, and we are in the final part, which is a conclusion, which we are coming almost towards the end of this circle of studies. And the conclusion is concluding whatever we learned in general throughout the 1019 questions. And here we are now reflecting on the last weeks in relation to the different viewpoints the different people have, and even those who have been opposing Allan Kardec at the time, and he in a rational way was helping to explain what the Spiritism is about. And today we carry on this slide where we continue on the item 9 of the conclusion, which is the last part in the conclusion of the Spirit's book. Then I read it and then we go through. The first slide is referring to the Spirits have always advised us not to trouble ourselves with differences of opinion, since unity will occur has already occurred concerning the majority of the issues, whereas differences are disappearing day by day. To the question, while awaiting unity, upon what basis can an impartial and disinterested inquirer formulate a judgment? The Spirits have given us this response. If we go through what we understand on this initial aspect here, on the conclusion item 9 regarding Spiritism, how do we understand it today? How did this paragraph came to us? How could we reframe it in different words according to our understanding at present?
The difference, in my opinion, is it happens because of the stage of evolution which we are now. We're still too attached to words and meanings. We're too attached to our own personal opinions. But the spirits advise that as time goes by and we start to individually understand the true teachings, that will be taken away slowly, because we'll be able to interpret it not only intellectually, but how we live and how we feel these teachings. And then how we interpret it is going to be indifferent, because it's going to resonate as a reality to each being. But the differences that we have now is because of the stage of evolution where each one finds themselves. We're not all at the same level, we're all different.
Okay, anything else? So we keep on. Apart, we are all individuals, unique beings, and yes, the different viewpoint, as we'll also learn in the Gospel according to Spiritism, is based on the different levels of evolution. And that implies the different levels, how we develop ourselves or evolved so far, psychologically and emotionally. But in reality, all of us are in a pathway of evolving and progressing. In those differences, the will fade away gradually, because we are all reflecting about the same truth that comes from God. Okay? Now we see then the spirits have given us this response. They say, the purest light is not eclipsed by any cloud. The flawless diamond is one of greatest value. So judge the spirits by the purity of their teachings. Do not forget that among spirits there are those who have not yet freed themselves from the ideas of earthly life. Learn to distinguish them by their language. Judge them by the sum of what they tell you. See whether there is logical sequence in their ideas, and whether there is anything in what they say that reveals ignorance, pride, or malevolence. In other words, whether their expressions are always marked with the stamp of wisdom that reveals true superiority. What is coming to us here now? How do we read it and hear it, and now would reframe it for those who may also be with us and learning?
What highlighted to me was, because we're analyzing the language of the spirits that are transmitting messages, remembering that spirit is every being. So it can be incarnated, disincarnated, and we take a lot of other people's truths as reality. So how do we analyze what is real, what isn't? Because it's really easy to fake things, isn't it? Yeah. We've got ways of using language to manipulate people very easily. So how do we distinguish that? How do we know? And it's interesting because they put 3 points: reveals ignorance, pride, and malevolence. And the one that highlights to me, it's not even the ignorance or the malevolence, but it's pride. So whatever is going to be stimulating pride, our pride, which is going to be linked to our selfishness, that's definitely a red flag for us to wake up and wait, hold on. Why is it going to be more prideful? You know, that's something I want to get rid of. Then that's already a red light. And now whenever we see a red light, we use a stop sign to really stop and reflect, because it's very easy to get a detailed lie within a lot of truth, and that's where we fall. So it's being able to analyze that and understand it's easy or simple, but something the Spirit tells us that again and again and again.
So the 3 points that you mentioned, my question would be, as we are all evolving, how do I free myself from ignorance? Studying, but the enlightened, the pure spirits are inviting us. They are the loyal servants of Jesus who brings forward the good news from God. And we will never go astray. So studying and studying myself, yeah? Because the Spiritism is helping us to get to know who we are, and then we also can realize, we also can realize our ignorance and gradually overcome it, because we need to learn to distinguish and discern for ourselves. And then the second aspect, pride. How do I free myself from pride? How do I learn to overcome pride?
So exercising humility.
Humility.
Assuming responsibility for the defaults that we have. It's
Yes.
important to see that as well.
So it's really for me, for all of us, to learn to be humble. Because when we learn to be humble, that touches our heart, where we quite often are crystallized from the previous, let's say, egoistic or egocentric patterns and systems and belief systems. Now we are sincerely willing to learn from, let's say, the deepest sincere aspects of the teachings, and no manipulate. And then malevolence. How do we overcome and free ourselves from malevolence? What is malevolence? Let's imagine those who may be studying with us, it's the first time that they may be hearing. How could we reframe malevolence? What could it be? Because sometimes different words can have a different understanding in helping us to understand. What do we understand so far of malevolence? Those who have secondary intentions, those who are really in a negative way trying to mislead people or misguide people, they have a negative, not pure intention behind. Is that?
I checked the dictionary.
Okay.
So here we have, there's a sinister atmosphere, feeling of oppression, malevolence, malice, spite, spitefulness, hostility, hatred, hate, ill will, bitterness, blasphemy, anger. So it's everything that is against love, isn't it?
It's everything but goes against the pure spirits, or the pure, when we look in the scale, because we are talking here from different evaluation, the scale of evolution. So when we are now comparing to the purest spirits, then it's everything against what you just read. That those aspects or those values, they still come from a primitive state of evolution. Yeah?
And then we can say that there's different levels of malevolence as well.
Yes.
Because as I keep on looking at this, unfriendliness, unbenevolence, vengefulness, so it goes in degrees, it's different types of degrees.
Yes, we could easily say that there are so many different levels of malevolence as spirits are transitoring through this period, because it is a transitory phase, because we are all evolving. And as we are all unique and we are evolving, I would say that there is the level of the most dark side of malevolence towards those who are already reaching a higher level here that they are freeing themselves from. And it depends where the spirit temporarily is still attached to in terms of values. But we are all, incarnates and disincarnates, invited to overcome those shadows, those, let's say, misconcepts that we created, because we have been all created by God, simple and ignorant, simple and ignorant, yes. So never God created us with pride. Never God created us in a malevolent way. That are our characters that we can now choose freely and spontaneously, as we are using and exercise the free will to free ourselves from. Because we, as we are incarnate, we are here in this school of earth to learn to re-educate ourselves and learn to be humble, learn to be sincere, learn to be honest with ourselves. What are the consequences when we learn to be humble, honest, and sincere with ourselves? We feel stronger in which way?
Because for me personally, because knowing my imperfections, assuming it, it's a great defense against any sort of judgment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I'm honest about my defaults. Stronger in a sense also that I feel open to be able to interact with better beings, because I know that I'm opening up to the change,
mm-hmm.
rather than that fear that will come out of the lack of honesty.
So we would tune into through the law of affinity with beings who also are humble, sincere, and benevolent, and therefore also receiving their input, which is positive, which will impact us in a constructive way. Yeah, we create friends on that level, let's say, and we learn with each other. And the other aspect about what you said is, yes, we feel stronger psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually. For strong in a sense that we believe more in what is true. We believe more in the virtues than on the lack of the virtues. We try gradually in exercising the willpower in that way, we are developing our own rational faith. Because we will not develop rational faith through lies or through misconceptions. Is that making sense? Would you like to add something? No? Okay. Anything else that we take on here? So when we refer to the ignorance, pride, and malevolence, usually we are intending to present a false superiority. Because those who are really big, those big in a sense, those who are really superior, they are humble and they will not have the need to pretend what they are not. Is that making sense? A different internal emotional response. And in that way, we carry on then for the next paragraph. Would you like to read it for us?
If your world were inaccessible to error, it would be perfect. But it is far from perfection because you are still learning to distinguish error from truth. You need the lessons of experience to exercise your judgment and to enable you to evolve. Unity will be found on the side where good has never been mixed with evil. It is on that side that people will be connected with one another through the force of circumstances, for they will realize that the truth lies
there. Would you like to comment? How is that coming to you? How is that coming to us? It's interesting, they are referring straight to our world where we are, yeah? In your world, where inaccessible to error, it would be perfect, but it is far from perfection because you are still learning to distinguish error from truth. How do we understand that first phrase? What are the enlightened? What is St. Augustine trying to teach us?
That we have to, is the way we relate it with errors, I think. Sometimes that we are still in the way, so we are still learning how to recognize what is right and what is wrong. So we can have like some level of consciousness about what is right or wrong, but we don't know, like we are not clear yet, I think. It's interesting because I have a problem with errors. So in this week, for example, in my job and everything, when I make a mistake, I feel really, really bad. So I need to have another relationship with mistakes, with errors, and I think it's really good.
So I need to learn to be good enough and not perfect.
Yeah.
Then, and also to learn to put myself in the learner position. Yes. So when I do a mistake, that it's okay as a learner, just to evaluate and analyze what was wrong, things, what have I learned, learn it next time around. I think St. Augustine, in my way, he is saying, come down, brothers and sisters. Come down. Don't be so rigid. You still are all learning. You still are very on the beginning of understanding what is error and true, what is wrong and right. Yes? So it's helping us come down, be humble. Gradually, we will, as you progress, as you evolve, we will distinguish better, because that is part of the developing of rational and emotional dimension as immortal beings, as the spirits that we are. Because otherwise, if we just keep on the intellectual level, full of pride, as we said previously, and judgment, we see things always in a blurred way. But as more as we become, we develop ourselves emotionally as well, because the truth is also known through the emotional dimensions, not just an intellectual, then we will learn gradually, and our way of expressing ourselves will be, how do you understand it? Well, in the present, this is how I perceive it. But internally, not only intellectually, but emotionally, I know that is different ways in the future. But in the present, this is how I perceive it. And it's very important that we learn to express ourselves, not in a negative way, in a positive way. And it's okay not to have the final word. It's okay to become towards the center of ourselves and not be from the extremes. Because in reality, when we analyze, where are we studying as children of God? Planet Earth, trial and expiations. I don't need to be very clever to understand that I know very little in relation to reality. So put myself as a learner in the position where I am, in a loving way, because that will help us to understand more and also connect with the real good spirits who will be inspiring us. And then we become more and more flexible, and the learning is gradually easier. Okay? Then we carry on to the next one. You need the lessons of experience to exercise your judgment and to enable you to evolve. What is St. Augustine referring to this sentence? He's not saying perhaps you need. He's very precise for all of us. You need. Yeah? Experience to exercise your judgment and to enable you to evolve. What do we understand about exercise or judgment? Which other word could we use here? Discernment. We could exercise our discernment, and all of us still are learning. All of us are learning to discern, to exercise our discernment. The discernment in relation to God's laws, that is important when we are training, when we are exercising ourselves, not in relation to human understanding. It is in relation to God's laws, which we are studying in the Spirit's book.
Because then after the experience gets imprinted into our way of being, doesn't it? And then that's where we feel things, and we don't just know things.
Yeah.
And that's where we reincarnate maybe without understanding it intellectually, but emotionally it just doesn't feel right, or it just does feel right.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes. And why is that? Why is that so? That's a very important point. What is that? Why is that so? Where is God's law written? In our conscience. So as more as we learn to discern, which is very different than go somebody else tell me, doctor, what is this and that. But each one of us learn to understand, because we bring it within, things are creation. And now this study helps us to go back to our center. And we learn to discern. Then it becomes part of ourselves. And if we, through the law of reincarnation, come to our next existence that perhaps is not part of my planning to study, yet I may never hear in one is the existence about Spiritism, but it is part of me through the emotional dimension. It is part of my behavior. It's knowledge that we acquire, and no one can take that from us. Is that making sense? But when we follow, let's say, others, which is important to learn with each other, but the discernment is activating the virtue that each spirit needs to understand the truth. Are we clear here? Then we carry on until will be found on the side where good has never, unity will be found on the side where good has never been mixed with evil. How do you understand that phrase? It's very short, but it's interesting. Unity will be found on the side where good has never been mixed with evil. How do we as immortal beings in this level of evolution understand that?
Unity, I think, is ourselves with God.
The unity is in relation to the unity of thinking about Spiritism. Remember when we considered the previous lessons? Because a lot of discrepancy and people have different viewpoints and we fight sometimes because we think differently. Now the unity is in relation to the understanding of the Spiritism. Okay? Yeah? And now, how would you say? How would you develop that? Unity will be found on the side where good has never been mixed with evil. How is that coming to us? So can I lie throughout my existences, as we saw in the previous slide, or even through my pride, through my malevolence? Can I have a different understanding than it actually is? Can I lie about? Yes, I can. A lot of us did it for centuries already, and others still are doing. But then comes St. Augustine who says, unity of thought will be found on the side where good has never been mixed with evil. Why is that? Can any spirit on the human level control the truth? No? So why not? So I may be able to lie temporarily, okay? I may be able to disturb the truth or the proposals. But can I do that forever? No, why not? Where comes the truth from? God. Who directs all of us? God, mind-lying process is transitory. And if I still keep on lying, I'm giving an example, all of you will be agreeing what Jesus is teaching. I will be somehow, through the love of God, be asked to follow. And I have two options. Which are those two options?
Through love or
Through love or through pain, I can choose one. Because the majority follows, yes? And those who are delayed, they are also invited through two options. I can choose also freely to follow that or through the learning of pain. It is on that side that people will be connected with one another through the force of circumstances, for they will realize that the truth lies there. What do we understand now with this last phrase of item 9, conclusion of the Spirit's book? How could we say it according to our own words? Why will be people connected with one another? Do we have an idea?
When there is no ego,
When they're through goodness, and it's more, how do we become good beings? No, when you say, I'm good already. Okay, good. But how do I then become good beings? How do we become good beings? Are we all already over that? Huh? Living truthfully. And how do I do that? Overcoming my shadows, overcoming my imperfections, enlightening my imperfections through the proposal that Jesus offers to all of us, which is through self-love. There's no space as learners as we are for guilt or punishment, but it is for learning. So enlightening my own shadows, overcoming my own shadows. In that way, we are expanding more and more the goodness within which every creature brings sins or creation. Creation. Yeah? Anything to say? Anybody else? Why would we choosing to be good in this stage of our evolution? Why would we, as immortal beings, choose to be good in this world where we live?
tried being evil or and it doesn't work.
We have tried already to be evil,
Yeah.
and what resulted with which are the consequences?
Yeah.
Headaches,
So,
pains everywhere.
we have shown that this is not the way, so I have to take it away.
So we are learning through the pain and choosing freely now. Let me try to be better. Because that way I was there and I know the consequences. Good, because everything is learning, okay? Because what else? Why would we choose to be better and be good, apart from what has been said? Because we inherit ourselves, isn't it? Oh my God, doing good means what for us in the future? Means what? Better circumstances. Yeah. I will be more in peace, even in this existence already. Peace of mind comes not through lies and distortion. Peace of mind comes when we learn to be honest, sincere, in relation to the universal laws. And this is in this existence and the following ones as well. And the learnings will be easier, because in learning to be good, I'm choosing to learn via the path of love. I resist less. I obey more. I renounce more. Is that making sense? Are you okay? Then we carry on to the next one then. Cynthia, would you like to read it first, please?
Besides, what do a few varieties that are more a matter of form than of matter? Observe the fundamental principles of Spiritism are the same everywhere and must unite you all in a common thought, the love of God and the practice of good.
Can we go through the first paragraph? Okay, would you like to comment? What do we understand now? Continue developing our thinking. Besides, do a few variances that are more a matter of form than depth matter. Observe that the fundamental principles of Spiritism are the same everywhere and must unite you all in the common thought. So what is St. Augustine teaching us here? Why are you discussing with different point of views? I think he's trying to say that. Because on the end of the day, as he said, observe that the fundamental principles of Spiritism are the same everywhere and must unite you all in a common thought, the love of God and the practice of good. Is there different ways of loving God? Loving God. A practice of goodness. So all interpretations as we are evolving is almost like quite limited in relation to the essential core, what we learn through the learnings, which is to learn to love God and to practice goodness. And when we learn to practice goodness within us, with us, in relation to God, will we still discussing about the different viewpoints? No. We will be cooperating. This is how I understand it today. But certain that I'm not with the final thought or the final opinion. Other people may know more than I do. Is that making sense? So it's almost like in a cooperation way that we are learning with each other.
I'm always fascinated how the spirits, the higher spirits, manage to say so much in such few words.
Yeah.
Because if we look, a love of God, I mean, we can develop that for the next hour and a half. How do you love God? How do you do that?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you practice goodness? Is there a right or wrong way of practicing goodness? No?
Good question. How do we learn to love God? Would it be a bit different for spirits to learn to love God in a planet of trials and expiations and a planet of happiness? Yes. So in all situations where we are, how do we learn to love God in our daily basis? How do we learn?
Accepting the expiations.
Accepting the trials, the tasks, let's put it, is softer perhaps, the ego. Accept the mind planning. Accept what I demanded to come to do here as a learner. What else? What else can we learn to love God?
Study the divine laws way of loving God.
It's true, yes, because God's laws are within, and as more as we open up to study it, that is already an action of self-love. Would we be right in saying that through self-love we learn to love God? Yes, and the study is one of the means that will help us, correct? Which other ways can we on daily basis learn to love God?
Everything around us.
Love one another and everything, yes. Why would we do that? I don't know these people there in China.
We all are part of God. I think of the creation of God. So everything is God. So we have the idea that God is something, that is or person, that is in a place, and God is everything. God has created everything. So loving each other is the first step, and then loving everything around us is loving God because it's all. You know?
So God is the creator of everyone and everything. Yeah, and He sent His greatest Son, Jesus, telling us, tell them all, dear son, love one another. And here we are learning now to love one another. Why is it important for me to love people in China? Because when we go beyond the materialistic viewpoint, we understand we are all beings in evolution and children of God, and therefore also connected indirectly, knowingly or not, accepting or not, through His love. We are all brothers and sisters in humanity. I mentioned China, but it's everywhere, because different cultures means merely different schools of learning for all the children of God. But we are all brothers and sisters and members of the same family. We have a big family. So now saying I'm alone is a lie. Which other ways can we learn to love God? Mm-hmm. So standing up for goodness. Mm-hmm. Loving ourselves is a way of loving God. Respecting ourselves is a way of loving God. Developing dignity is a way of loving God. Be honest on a daily basis, is that a way of loving God? Yes, because He did not create us dishonest. No way.
And we know because I've always been in conflict with loving yourself as a way of loving God, because we always think that go outside and love other people, and that's the way to do it, when in fact you can't really love others unless you love yourself. But how do you do it without being selfish? And getting to that stage and understanding that we're all interconnected. So if I fall, the hearts of many that love me and also falling, that's not motivation, self-motivation, which is what we're talking about on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So when we realize that we're responsible for so many hearts that are interconnected with us, we start becoming a little bit more careful with ourselves and start looking at actually I'm really responsible for a lot. And everyone else is responsible for me.
Mm-hmm.
And all the talks about that in spiritual planes, higher spiritual planes, we can start exercising that now.
Of course.
But it's intense. It's an intense feeling when we come to that realization that actually I'm responsible for how people are going, people are watching, people are feeling, if they love or they care, or even if they don't, there's something there that I'm responsible for doing. Then we start exercising self-love, and that's the connection with God. And we can't self-love without connecting with God.
It's impossible. But the difference is, and sometimes we may, through our evolution path, because we are all learning, we may get lost in selfishness and understanding that is self-love, which the materialistic viewpoint still presents quite a lot. Go and do what pleases you. We are taught sometimes and have been throughout centuries. And then comes the greatest psychologist of all, Jesus, and tell, go and do what is your duty. Self-love comes from within when we learn to get to know God's laws, accept them, and choose to live accordingly, spontaneously and freely, because He gave us the faculty of freedom for us to freely and spontaneously, because in that way we increase our self-awareness and we perceive what we don't perceive in a selfish way. I go out and do what I want as long as I'm happy. But when we open self-awareness, that is not real happiness. That is a vicious. And then naturally we codify ourselves within, spontaneously and freely through the new understanding. Then we understand self-love starts within, but it goes outside. It does not satisfy just pleasing me. The real happiness comes from when we please others. Please in the sense when we offer us to others, when we cooperate in the universe. Is that making sense? Okay. Examples, we start with loving God and practice of goodness. How can we as immortal beings learn to practice good in this stage of evolution where we are? What is already possible for us? Prayer for ourselves or others? Both. Why is it good for us to pray for ourselves?
It's so much for ourselves, but to connect with our benefactors. It's a way of opening up and being able to connect with them.
Correct. To open our psychic channel towards those who are ahead of us, the light ones. Okay, correct. What else? To self-protect us, because as more as we create a habit of inner prayer, and inner prayer is no longer a habit as we learned that we need to go in a specific place and have a different or a specific position. The inner prayer means training, educated, disciplining our mind in goodness. Each positive thought, according to the natural laws, is a prayer in the universe, is a vibration, is a communication. And why is it good for us to pray for others?
Because we're practicing goodness, and also because it's also a good energy that we are sending to that person. If we pray for others, we are sending that good energy feelings to the other person, and that is going to help that people. Maybe I can go there because the person is far away, but I have the feeling, I have the desire to help them, so I can cry, and I'm sure that that energy or this person is going to be better, is going to receive help.
What do we do when we pray for others?
We call them apart to we ask for assistance.
Are we practicing, exercising charity?
Yeah.
Yes. Because again, our understanding is, well, I don't care about those. No, that is selfish. That's stupidity. Once I wake up spiritually, we understand that we are all interconnected. Therefore, it's my duty. I go back to the duty again. To be charitable towards the pain of others, the suffering of others, to help to alleviate. Why? Because that is the natural law in the universe. And today, I'm in a position that I can be praying. Perhaps tomorrow I need someone to pray for me. Our references change. We don't know which kind of experiences we need to undergo and we want to go. But it's a charitable act, yes?
It's a great way of speaking to people as well, isn't it? To pray. Heart to heart.
Oh, definitely. Who benefits first when we pray for others? We. How do we notice that?
We feel like more love, more passion.
We feel freer. We feel lighter. And why is that? Because we are doing what we're supposed to do. What we came to do. Each time when we move in accordance to all planning as immortal beings while learning on earth, we immediately have feedback here. We don't need to wait to disincarnate. We have it here. Because God's laws are within, and the inner wisdom is within. So much so when we do the wrong, quite often we know as well, we also have the feedback. But when we do good, when we pray for others, we feel light and we feel good. All deep consciousness knows that we are doing what we're supposed to do. Working towards the good of everyone. Because goodness is not what is good for me only. That is selfishness. What is good only for mine, selfishness. The real goodness is what we do for us and others. What is good today and is good in the future. So it's nothing related to here and now only. Okay? Then the next paragraph says, therefore, no matter what may be the mode of progression that is accepted or the normal condition of your future existence, the final aim is always the same, doing good. And as you know, there are not two ways of doing it. What are we learning here? It's my way. No, it's my way. We do it here on earth, yeah? No, this is the right way. No, this is. And then we miss the incarnation just discussing about. So what are we learning here? I always remember this paragraph here. There is a picture. I don't know if you saw it. Perhaps it's not making sense to you because the picture is not here, but it's in my head. There is a number 6. We have a number 6 here, and I stand here, and you stand there. What do I see from here? Number 6. What do you see from there? Number 9. So who is right? Who is wrong? It depends from where we look. Is that making sense? So what are we getting here from the words from St. Augustine?
It's just a sign of our childishness still, isn't it? The fact that we're still debating the number.
I think debating or articulating is part of developing our own reasoning. And it's healthy when we have to studies. I understand that. What is not healthy is when we get into the pride and selfish mood. Because then we are stiff and rigid, and it's my way, it's our way. But when we are discussing that is part that we are going on. I never thought of that. Quite often people say when we are in a group study, never thought in that way. That is healthy. Oh, I think in this way. That is healthy. But not in a rigid way, because we all are learning. We don't have the final interpretation. We are far away from that. So the major point here is, again, learn to do good as you are learning. Focus more in cooperating in doing good for everyone. That will also help us, because again, we don't have the restrictions, psychically speaking. We are more open. Then it's also easier to understand. Yeah? Can we move on? Let's move on to the next one. Danusa, would you like to read it for us, please?
If among the followers of Spiritism there are those who differ in their opinions about some thoughts of its theory, all of them are nevertheless in agreement with the fundamental points. Thus, there is unity, except on the part of a very small number of you who do not yet accept the intervention of spirits in the manifestation, either attributing them to purely physical causes, contrary to the axiom that very intelligent effect must have an intelligent cause, or to the reflection of our own thought, disproved by the facts.
Let's explore that together. Would you like to comment? We start at the beginning, it's easier than the first phrase when it says, if among the followers of Spiritism there are those who differ in their opinions about some points of its theory, all of them are nevertheless in agreement on a fundamental point. How can we reframe it in simple words?
You're all on the right path.
We may have different viewpoints, different understanding, but on the fundamental point, we agree. Which are the fundamental point? God is love. Isn't it? Is anyone discussing about it? No, God is love. Another aspect that Jesus taught us, love one another. Would we discuss with that? We have never been informed, hate one another. No, love one another. And how do I understand love? If I don't understand, I learn to respect one another. Does that make sense? Anything else that you take from this first phrase? Then moving on, thus there is unity, except on the part of a very small number who do not yet accept the intervention of the spirits and its manifestations. What do we mean by do not accept the spirits and the manifestations?
The spirit's manifestations, the spirit's communications is a fallacy.
Okay, does not exist, yes?
I think we are referring to they're talking about materialistic people that don't include the spiritual aspect of their life.
It is a more physical, more material viewpoint about existence.
Yeah.
So if I'm tempering in that way of thinking, I will never accept. If people come to me and say, well, you know what? There is all the spiritual world that exists. There are the spirits. No one dies. Everyone is alive. People can come and go, oh, what are you talking about? I don't believe in anything of that.
Yeah.
But that is my temporary viewpoint. Because I'm also a spirit, even if I don't believe in it. I also communicate with myself with others, even if I never thought about it. Does that make sense? Because we think and feel, all of us, and we are communicating constantly. So it's not because I negate something that it doesn't exist. Is that making sense? Yeah. And then what else did we take here from the last one? Contrary to the axiom that every intelligent cause must have an intelligent effect, must have an intelligent cause. How do we understand that?
That's where the dream started, isn't it? Allan Kardec. So it's teaching us discernment again.
Yeah.
Every moment.
Yeah. When you said that is how it started, develop that for those who may never heard it. How did Spiritism start?
60 years ago in Paris, there were parties and the aristocrats used to join for these frivolous meetings where there were dancing tables answering questions. Kardec was invited to these parties several times and declined, but eventually got dragged to one of them and watched these events. And as a being with the purpose that he is, didn't join in the frivolity, he asked the questions to himself. He used the discernment he'd already gained. An inanimate object cannot answer an intelligent question. And from there stems Spiritism.
Correct. So that is a link what we say here. He didn't look in a frivolous way the turning tables. He asked, what is the cause of this effect? He went and searched.
What's interesting is that we ask questions all the time. So I can imagine those beings which It's us, immortal beings there. And we look at it and we're like, wow, how did that happen? And then we don't go past that.
Why not?
Deeper.
Why
So
not?
How do you get deeper?
To get deeper within in the journey of evolution. We cannot embrace or understand beyond what we develop ourselves within the natural laws. So the same experience as what you just said was, and is still these days, perceived through the level of evolution of each member who is involved in experiences. But we go beyond, we can see broader if we expand our consciousness in relation, and that is through the effort that each individual does in his study and accepting and living according to the natural laws. Remember, two wings, rational and emotional level. And in that way, whatever we conquer, we take with us for the next existence. Because Allan Kardec wasn't a spiritist at that time. But we surely, when we study, we know as a spirit, he already was familiar with the Spiritism teachings. Does that make sense? It's the same on earth, that the same experiences sometimes can be seen in one way. That reminds me the turning tables on the interaction with the spirits. I'm involved in another social project, and there is a child of God there. He plays around he has a, I don't say links, how do you say that now?
Handkerchief.
Handkerchief. Handkerchief goes around, and then he holds, look at me, he does, yeah? And then he puts a hand like that, and suddenly opens, it's not there anymore. And of course, within Spiritism, we know what is that, and he tried with me, and I was like, yellowish, responding in a way, so he moved on to a different one. To those people who really look, oh, how marvelous, how fantastic. And the other day he told me that he does some shows on the weekend. And of course, when we study the medium's book, we know the seriousness of that, because we are all connected with the same spirits. So still these days we may be a bit playing around, yeah? Did you go to the end? No. No? Where did it stop? We did? Okay. Okay. Would you like to read the next paragraph for us, please?
Remaining points are secondary and in no way down to the fundamental basis. There may be other schools that seek enlightenment concerning the as yet controversial parts of the science, but there must not be rival sects. There should only be antagonism between those who desire the good and those who would do, or who would have a desire for it.
Mm-hmm. Would you like to comment? Next week? As we're here this week, how would we come there? How is that coming to us? There may be other schools that seek enlightenment concerning the as yet controversial parts of the science, but there must not be rival sects. Why not?
Because we can't construct anything if there's antagonism and if there's rivals. We can't construct.
No.
Oh, well, I want my brick yellow, I want my brick red. Well, which brick are we going to use? Mm-hmm. We need unity because it's all the same purpose.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything else? What else comes to us? The antagonism will be fading away as long as we choose to be.
Give us the answer.
Yes, please. I'm not talking about. Are you here? Are you with me? Or where are you, spirits? The antagonism will vanish away. Are you also waiting next week to come back with us? When we learn to be humble, when we learn to be learners, when we learn, as Socrates said, what I know is that I don't know nothing. When we reach that level, nothing in a sense, I'm not here to give the final word.
What does it mean to be humble?
What it means to be humble, how do you understand that today, not next week? How do you understand it today?
Take responsibility for what you do,
Mm-hmm.
not judge what you do.
Okay. What else would we understand? to be humble in this stage.
I like what you said that understand that we are learners. That's very good explanation about humility, I think. Because we are in a world where we are all competing one with each other, and we are in a race. And I have to be better than you because I need a better position because I need money, and that is it's crazy. And because of that, we think that we have to be perfect because we have to fulfill some standards, social standards. And when you don't fulfill that, then you feel that you're not perfect, you have imperfections or whatever. So and sometimes we think that we are sometimes when we get to a level in the material world, we think that we have power and we can not manipulate, but yes, manipulate others or other control things. Then we think that we know yes, that we are right and we have all the knowledge and we have everything we can do it, and that is so we are perfect, and it's not.
Yeah.
So I think the good point is that I love the way of thinking that we are learners.
Yes.
Even if I have a huge position in the material world, I'm still a learner in the spirit world.
I'm still in a position that I know very little in relation to the truth. Merely why? Because I'm not learning on the planet trials and expiations. I disinflate my ego. I bring myself back to reality. And not denigrating myself, but being honest.
Yes,
I cannot learn, I cannot have the final words being in this stage, which is still, according to the gospel, according to Spiritism, Spirit's book, and scale of evolution, it still is a primitive world. How do I want to understand the truth? But I motivate and stimulate myself to carry on studying, because I'm in the right place for the right learnings. So when we develop humbleness, we will not have the need anymore on the emotional level to pretend to be who we are not. Is it almost like an inner freedom that we develop in overcoming more pride and selfishness?
Is it correct to say that we realize the untruths, we become more aware that are just not truthful?
We become more truthful?
We become more aware.
We become more aware?
Not truthful.
We become aware, because that is part of self-awareness, which is the consequence of study Spiritism. Spiritism is a proposal of self-awareness, that we, through self-love, become aware of our false values that we created, or shadows or imperfections, and in a loving way, spontaneously, we choose to re-educate ourselves. And that is what suits us on our emotional dimension, that we don't have the need anymore to pretend to be who we aren't, because that creates great illnesses sometimes, because of the pressure that we put. Humbleness means just be who you are and try as a learner to carry on learning. And where we are, even in the stage of planet Earth, we are loved by God. We are loved by Jesus. We don't need to pretend in order to be accepted. Is that okay? Okay. Did we go to the end here? Okay. Then the next one says, however, there is no authentic spiritist who, after having adopted the great moral maxim taught by the spirits, could ever desire either or wish evil upon a neighbor, whatever their difference of opinion. If any such a school is an error, sooner or later it will be enlightened, if there is good faith and the absence of prejudice. While they wait, all schools possess a common bond that should unite them in the same thought. How are those words of St. Augustine coming to us today?
It's almost a consolation, because if we're really studying and we're doing our best, and then all of a sudden we start seeing untruths emerging and taking others in the wrong path. Sometimes they say, calm your hearts down, it's fine, it's temporary, because as we learn within Spiritism, evil is temporary. It's our job to make sure that we're not contributing towards that. But it's a consolation.
Yes, and as more as we carry on studying, we will learn that evil is the absence of goodness, that evil itself doesn't exist. It just exists while we are still choosing to behave in that way. But as an immortal being, within the natural laws in the universe, evil does not exist, it's not real. Because God didn't create it. What is real is what God created. Everything that is not within what God created is not real. It just lasts to the extent that we validate it. When we re-educate ourselves and change, it ceases. Is that making sense?
It's not as real as you want it to be.
Sorry?
It's not as real as you want it to be. It's not love.
Yeah. Because what is the greatest power in the universe which governs everyone and everything? Which is the greatest power in the universe? Love. So everything that is apart from love, forget. Why fight? Why defend? It's not true. And of course, in this stage where we are again, when we look in a loving way, what do we understand about love? Well, if you don't understand what God's love is, which we are not capable yet, we are not developed psychologically and emotionally at that level, but we do understand what the virtues mean. And if we don't, we learn, we study, because the virtues are the children of love. If it makes sense. That is even easy theory. But every virtue which we exercise, we are training ourselves in the real love, through the law of evolution. Yeah? When we talk about respect ourselves, others, be honest with ourselves and others, be loving towards each other, be forgiving to each other, be benevolent, be indulgent, we are training, when we practice those virtues, we are training ourselves within the real law. Are we okay? And in that way, we are coming to the end of our time today. And always we finish our meeting with our final prayer. Giving thanks to the Creator of everything and everyone, our dear and loving Father, merciful towards every and each one of us, as brothers and sisters in humanity. May we all feel blessed in this moment with His divine love, soothing our hearts, soothing our minds, as divine beings essentially as we all are. May we choose to continue our journey of evolution, motivating ourselves, using the time that God granted to each one of us in order to expand our minds and hearts in relation to the knowledge of the natural laws in the universe, and freely, spontaneously, choosing to live according to them. And as we do mistakes, may we all, as a natural process, learn to forgive us, analyze those movements, and learn from them, and then give us new opportunities to redo the lessons as divine learners as we all are, granted with infinite possibilities on daily basis, to expand goodness within, to be more grateful for everything and everyone, and to choose freely and spontaneously to cooperate towards the goodness for everyone, either in our homes, with our families, in our workplaces and our communities. May the blessings of the enlightened beings follow upon every each one of us. And as we are revigorated, may we continue our journey towards the light. Enlighten us today and always. So be it.